Hello everyone and good evening. My name's Don Arleth and welcome to World Talks. Although Poland has risen from 36th to 33rd place in the Rule of Law Index in 2024, little has changed in legal reality. There have been replacements of the head of the National Prosecutor's Office and court presidents, but the problems are getting worse and systemic changes are still lacking. The ruling coalition says that there is nothing to count on as long as Andrzej Duda is still in the office of the presidential palace. Because of that, we can expect further turmoil when he fails to sign the so-called incidental bill into law. We will discuss where we are in restoring the rule of law with our guest, Programs Director at the Warsaw Security Forum, Bartłomiej Kot. Hello, and thank you very much for coming in and joining us on World Talks.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Yeah, so this is one of those stories that continues to give year after year after year after year. I think to start off with, let's talk about what Bogdan Święczkowski, president of the Constitutional Tribunal, has lately released on social media. For our audience, let's go ahead and take a look at this.
I filed for the possibility of a crime having been committed by the Prime Minister, ministers, parliament speakers, and other members of the ruling coalition. The crime we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is a coup d'etat.
I have so many questions, I don't know where to start. So, obviously, Poland has had a very tumultuous twists and turns in the legal system over the last several years. And we see a lot of previous government ministers and their deputies facing criminal charges right now. Can you put this into context for our international viewers? What is going on with this president of the Constitutional Tribunal? Who is he? And why do you think that he is saying that the current coalition is responsible for a coup d'etat, which, by the way, by definition, if you control the government, how can you take the government? Oh, it does make sense. Please.
Well, look, I'm not an old guy, but I already remember a couple of accusations related to the coup d'etat in Poland, especially coming from one political party and the affiliates of this political party, namely Law and Justice. This has become actually an ongoing political narrative in this country. It has also some historical traits. It's not something unusual in Poland to actually accuse your political opponent of trying to organize coup d'etat. So I'm not surprised that this actually happens in the political narratives, that it happens in politics in this country. The truth is, however, that it very much reminds me of actually shouting fire in a crowded theater. You have to take responsibility for your words. If you are president of the Constitutional Tribunal and you officially file in the document in which you are actually accusing the ministers of the sitting government of orchestrating a coup d'etat, then this is actually something grave in terms of the gravity of the statement and what is being discussed. I'm a bit afraid that actually in this speech, in these actions that have, in my opinion, a very political trait, this gravity was not actually found. This thinking wasn't present. The current president of the Constitutional Tribunal has come into this post after a series of turmoils, political turmoils within the tribunal itself, and of course in Polish politics. When you can even date it back to the very beginning of the Law and Justice government, after the elections that took place a couple of years ago, and there was a huge discussion about the number of the judges that were actually chosen by the parliament, by the Polish parliament back then, in an extensive number. Let me put it that way. That actually started all this discussion that we are still right now. And with the fact that both the judges and actually the presidents of the tribunals, they were validly chosen to their posts. The issue with Święczkowski is that He was very much politically connected to one political party. This is Law and Justice. Currently chosen to this position also by the president, the current president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, after actually also a very contested previous president of the Constitutional Tribunal. Which brings me to the point, very obvious, that in these words and these actions there is a political motivation.
Now, he's filed a 70-page complaint for, I would imagine, for charges to be filed. What do you think is going to become of this?
Nothing. Honestly, nothing. I'm sorry to be so obvious in this answer. And of course, there is an issue with the prosecutor's office right now. To what extent the person who will be conducting this activity right now around the documents that were filed will be also motivated politically or not. We have a very problematic, in my opinion, legal system currently also in Poland, where you have the Minister of Justice that is also in a position of a general prosecutor. It is actually very hard to distinguish these two, given also the fact that accusations come even to the person himself, like the Minister of Justice, Mr. Bodnar. He's accused by Święczkowski of actually being also responsible for this activity of orchestrating.
Despite the fact that it was Law and Justice that merged those two positions together.
Yes, indeed. But the truth is that the accusations were from the very beginning very politically motivated, and they are used not for the purpose of actually bringing the whole case into the court, rather actually for a narrative spin that is ongoing on right now, also in some of the Polish media, rather connected to the previous government.
So the court of public opinion. Okay, so looking at the current situation we're in, I think from an outside perspective, there's a lot of people that would say that we have two systems in Poland, we have two laws in Poland, maybe two constitutions. We have two different sides of the political aisle that definitely don't see eye to eye when it comes to the judiciary. We have several reforms that have been made. We have reforms that have been rolled back. We have a whole set of other reforms that want to be rolled back, but those will depend on the presidential elections. So how are Polish politicians going to get control of the chaos that is the Polish legal system and bring it back to something that resembles normality?
I would actually start with one thing. I don't believe there are actually two systems in this country. There is one system. There is an issue only with actually the interpretation of this, of the legal grounds upon which the certain actors are acting, basically speaking. And these interpretations are made for the political purposes, which does not invalidate the fact that there is actually one interpretation that you may consider as being actually legally binding. The fact that there are certain opinions that are concurring to that does not constitute an additional system upon which you can actually act. And I underline that because this is actually the core of this argument. Because people are thinking that when they bring in different interpretations to one legal thing, then this constitutes automatically alternative reality, and that justifies their actions. From the very beginning, the actions related to the Constitutional Tribunal were highly contested from the legal point of view. The issue right now is of a political, is very much political. It's politically, is full of political arguments. And with that political arguments come also the legal interpretations. That's the beauty and a problem in all of that. What I'm trying to say here is that we should not actually justify certain actions by only saying that there is a different interpretation to that. But I'm also aware of the fact that the solution to this problem is of a political matter, not of a legal matter. Also because of how many different activities were later on actually based upon the grants that could be legally contested, and that would also have the impact on people who are not lawyers or politicians, but the regular citizens that were actually acting in trust that the law is made to the standards. Let me put it that way.
Right now, we mentioned the court of public opinion. I'm also wondering ulterior motives for such statements that we're looking at investigating the government for an attempted coup d'etat or an actual coup d'etat. Could this be also in relations to the investigations that have been opened up against former ministers, deputy ministers of the last government?
Well, in a sense, yes. I do believe that if you are constructing, once again, a political narrative in which you are undermining the whole legal system, then it gives you an argument to say that, look, the country that is prosecuting our friends, our colleagues, our political supporters is not legal. It doesn't have, legal grounds to do it. So yes, basically speaking, this can be used as an argument also in this narrative spin related to the people who fled from Poland or are prosecuted because of their actions, because of the accusations of certain criminal activities.
Looking at the legal system here in Poland as objectively as you can, would you say that Poland had an independent judiciary? Do you think that there are other reforms that need to be made to make the judiciary more independent and less reliant on political decisions and political rhetoric, depending on who's in power?
The problem around the judiciary in Poland prior to the whole mess that we are facing right now was not of the independence. It was rather of effectiveness. And the fact of the lack of effectiveness of that system, it brought a lot of arguments for people who are referring to basically speaking, using populist arguments, justifying their actions. Because people were actually buying those arguments, saying, look, we are the ones who are, sitting in courts and or trying to reach out to certain civil arguments or things like that, and the courts are not delivering. That actually brought arguments for people who were justifying their political actions, putting actually judiciary at stake. Let me put it that way. So yes, I
remember they used to give a lot of examples of instances where justice wasn't working for Poles, right? It was either too slow or not working at all, or judges were misbehaving in the public sphere and weren't being punished and being let go.
That were actually populist arguments. Mm-hmm. The issue is that whereas I think that actually the reforms had to be made, the course of these actions was improper. It wasn't actually tackling the problem. It was actually constituting additional problems. Instead of building bridges, instead of actually bringing effectiveness to the system, it actually brought problems to the system.
Right, and it further divided the country. This is one of those major issues between the two parties that they still don't see eye to eye on. And
I would even say that it not only divided the country, the people, but it also divided the lawyers, simply speaking. And this is the problem for the stability of the system.
All right, well, Bartłomiej Kot, thank you for coming in and trying to get through this and explain it to an international audience. I know it is quite complicated indeed, and obviously we have our hopes for the future that this will be sorted out. My name's Don Arleth. Thank you for joining us, and stay with us here on TVP World for more.